Good morning, and welcome to the Finance Committee of Saturday, March 7th, 2026. We'll start by saying that we are being recorded by our friends at WCTV, and we'll start with the roll call. Mary Ann Galuzzo.
Here.
Andy Levine.
Here.
Chris Diorio.
Here.
Brad Jackson.
Here.
Joe Lovino.
Here.
Anthony Nelson.
Here.
Scott Neville.
Here.
And myself, Teresa Manganelli. This morning, we will be voting on the FY27 budget and town warrant. All right, so as in the past, we should all turn our phones off. As in the past, what we'll do is go around clockwise. Each member will take in turn a article in sequence, introduce the article, and if you're comfortable doing so, present a motion to the rest of the board. And we'll start with you, Chris, if you want to. I think...
Do we need to read the articles? We've read through them a couple of times now, or do we just
we could just read the
Article
first couple of sentences, just so that there's no confusion if somebody is watching without.
1? Article 1, to bring the votes on one ballot respectively for the following named offices, to wit, 2 select board members for a term of 3 years, 2 members of school committee, Housing Authority for 5, and 1 member for the Housing Authority for an unexpired term. You're also required and directed to notify and warn the said inhabitants of the town of Wilmington who are qualified to vote on the elections, and tells you the date and the time.
Okay, I don't believe we actually vote on that one.
Oh, okay.
Or Article 2.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. So we'll start with Article 3, Chris.
I already did one, though. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer funds available to borrow pursuant to any applicable statute, a sum of money for the purpose of paying unpaid bills for the previous years, or take any actions related thereto. I make a motion that we pass this article.
Second.
To pass it, is that what you said?
Yeah, how am I supposed to present
Pass
it?
over or recommend approval?
Recommend approval.
Okay.
Sorry,
That's all right.
recommend approval.
So there's none right now. The dollar amount would be none.
Yeah, there's nothing on here, that's why I would say it's easy to approve.
Yeah,
All right, so-
Eric said nothing yet, but he said reserve the right to have some.
Yep.
Yeah, if something comes up in the audit.
Okay, so we have did we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, Brad.
Article 4, to see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer-collector with the approval of the select board to enter into an agreement under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53F of the Massachusetts General Laws, and with one or more banks doing business in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts during fiscal year 2027 for a term not to exceed 3 years, which will permit the town of Wilmington to maintain funds on deposit with such institutions in return for said institutions providing banking services or take any action related thereto. I move that we recommend approval of Article 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Article 5, to see how much money the town will appropriate for the expenses of the town and the salaries of several town officers and departments, and determine how the same shall be raised, whether by taxation, transfer from available funds, or otherwise, to take any other action related thereto. So I will recommend this I will make a motion to recommend this for approval. It's a town budget.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion on this?
I don't have a presentation this year, but I just want to continue to say that I am not happy with Shawshing Tech's budget. I wasn't happy with their presentation, questions that were answered. We asked a number of questions. We still haven't got answers to those. FTEs, I thought that would be a pretty simple one that we could have got an explanation for at this point. He said they weren't adding any FTEs, but he also said they were moving 2 grant-funded positions into their budget, which to me is adding FTEs to the budget. I brought up salary increases, which I think have been pretty large. Like I said, it was 6.9% last year, 7.5% this year for their total salary costs. The superintendent told us that they had changed how they were calculating some of those. But I took their operating budget details sheet and compared last year's salaries to this year's salaries, and it's a 7.5% jump in salaries. Dr. Jackson talked about, how they need to look more closely at how they're paying these salaries. I mean, if you look through, there's significant changes beyond what the public school, the Wilmington Public School, Tewksbury, Burlington, Billerica, Bedford, what they're paying on a pay scale compared to what Shawshene Tech is. And I think the towns are holding the schools to a certain standard, and Shawshene Tech is not following that standard. Going through the salaries, I mean, there's one that stands out to me, and it's the superintendent's salary. I'm not saying that we should have a say over that, but last year it increased 14.8%. This year it's another 9%. Like those, and you see a lot of those numbers in their administration that they're jumping. I don't, based off of what we saw last year, what we talked about with the superintendent, and he came back with another presentation this year which was very flawed and had a lot of issues, and I don't think the message is getting through. I understand that they've had turnover with their finance director a couple of times now in the last few years, and that can cause some, issues with the budget. But we saw Wilmington Public Schools present with a new finance director and a new superintendent this year, and we saw the same presentation that we've seen in years past. So I don't think that's an excuse that we can accept. I want it to be known on the record that I'm unhappy with what we presented, and I'm unhappy with the budget increase that we've seen.
Thank you, Scott. I share your concerns and have for the last couple of years. It's definitely a difficult vote when you don't have confidence in the numbers that are being brought to you every year. And yet you're responsible here to make a recommendation to the people of Wilmington. So lack of confidence runs very deep for me with the Shawshene Tech budgeting.
Madam Chair, who holds them accountable? Is it the select board? Is it the school committee? Is it just they're independent and they're going to do whatever the heck they want? Because I think the feelings that you both have expressed are not uncommon. And I think that spending seems to be rampant. We haven't gotten good, clear answers from the superintendent for the last couple of years. And it feels as though there's just no accountability there. So who can hold them accountable?
Brad, I think it's just their school committee. Is that correct? And then maybe the state?
Yeah, a regional school district is independent of all towns and municipalities. Our elected officials and appointed officials have no authority or, frankly, way of holding them accountable other than with our votes. The regional school committee consists of 10 members, 2 from each community. Wilmington has 2 elected members. They're elected every 3 years, just like all our other school committee and select board members. They're 2 of 10. But the superintendent reports to the regional school committee, which essentially is overseen at some level by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, but it's more in the concept of compliance with regulations, not with issues of affordability or some of the issues that have been discussed here. The state doesn't hold any community responsible for, what it decides to do with salary increases or things like that. That is decisions that are left up to local elected entities. And the local elected entity in this case is the Shawshing Tech Regional School Committee.
Thank you. Anthony, I'm sorry.
My question was very much in line with Chris's. I think if we take a step back, this is a unique situation where this is a school that 5 different communities are sending their kids to, right? We're here to review the budget. We don't like the way the budget looks. We've presented that fact 2 years in a row. So at least this is more a question for the group. I wonder, because in the end, it's Eric's budget to present to us, and this is a piece of that budget, right? So is he properly reviewing it? I think the answer is no. I don't necessarily know that the town manager is at fault, because what we got in terms of conversation here was that they, as in the Shawshing Tech presenters, felt that the budget was moving up every year, right? They felt like they almost didn't have enough time. There was a time crunch, and maybe that's playing in here as to the mistakes that are in the budget. I think that a pretty clear schedule could be set well in advance so that they are well aware of the time crunch and the date. Next year, you're expected to present on February 15th or whatever the day is. Something like that where there's no surprise. Have everything in order. When we review the budget, we may find less mistakes that are, I don't believe they're disingenuous. Even the number that we all had an issue with during that meeting, I believe, was an attempt to correct for the issue from last year. It wasn't presented very well, but it was an attempt to satisfy that issue from last year. I think planning is, ahead of time is a big piece of this. And what we can do is we can, go to Eric or, whoever is in charge of that date and say, let's make sure they have that date ahead of time, so next year they're not telling us they don't have enough time.
Actually, in the defense of the town manager's office, they do communicate directly with both school systems, and I believe it starts before Christmas, and they're in communication with them. Our town manager participates in the Wilmington school budget on an advisory type of high-level overlook, but not on the Shawshing Tech. So both schools are given adequate notice. I think the problems that we are facing, in my estimation, is a capability issue. We have people who are not financial people preparing budgets. They don't understand the concepts, and therefore they're presenting numbers in an erroneous way. I do not think that it's deliberate in any way, shape, or form, but that doesn't stop the fact that the numbers are not correct when they're being presented. And if we didn't pick up on it, those numbers would continue on. And they may still continue on. We saw last year when a number was corrected, significant number, and that error was never changed, and we were the first presentation. So 4 other schools got that erroneous information, and there was no effort to change it. It's that type of interaction that we have that is so frustrating and creates a feeling of, I'm not certain what's going on here. So hopefully next year things will be better.
Yeah, I echo that. I think, I guess to put a final period on the point that I was trying to make. Even December is not that long, right? If you get notified in December and you have to present a budget in early February, they're waiting for X, Y, and Z in order to, it's a crunch, right? So at least I think a piece of it is planning. And even if you're not financially savvy and you're not used to presenting and creating these presentations, if you have adequate time, you can suss out those mistakes, or you can go and say, can someone review this for me and have a look?
I would suggest, Anthony, just that they know they got to deliver this next February. What do they need somebody to call them and tell them you got to plan the budget to present it next February? He knows he's got to do it. They know they have to do it. That school committee knows they have to have it done. So why do they need to be notified that it's got to be done? It's an annual process. They've got to present it to 5 towns. I think I think we're trying to be too nice here and too polite. What they've presented has been inaccurate and inadequate, and they have not followed up on our questions. That's the issue. If we gave them an extra month, I don't know that it would be any different, because it's now it's March, it's been 3 weeks since they presented, we've gotten no response. It's actually been 55 weeks since they presented last year, we didn't get answers to last year's questions. So I don't know that more time is going to help them. I think it's an attitude and an approach that they're not that concerned about it, because if they were, they would get back to us with responses. All the other folks that come in and present to us, when we have questions, they get back to us. That's the only group that hasn't responded in the couple of years that I've been on the board, and I find it very frustrating, and somebody somewhere has to figure out how to hold them accountable. But we can beat this to death. I think we're all in the same place. I think we got to move through a whole bunch of articles, so unless there's something new, I'd like to keep going.
Joe, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just brief comment here. And I'm aligned with the group here, and I want to commend Mr. Neville for his attention to detail. Thank you. You caught things I didn't catch. I almost feel like this conversation coming up over and over again holds the rest of the budget hostage.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to approve this budget. The level of diligence and transparency with every other group was fantastic. Everything made sense. I was aligned. I'm ready to approve, except for this piece. Mm-hmm. What I don't know is whether the presentation was so poor or if the content was clearly erroneous, where we're being asked to approve something erroneous. And I don't feel good about that. I'd almost feel better if it was carved out as a separate article.
Agreed.
And you can tell me, no, that's not possible, and that's fine. But I would feel a lot better about this. I'm going to vote to approve the budget because that's the right thing to do, with the caveat that I may be voting to approve something that's in error on the part of the Shashin, because I just don't know what I saw that night.
Andy?
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree, and I'm in the same boat. I think we're missing half of what Mr. Neville was suggesting, which is the numbers were wrong, right? But let's not miss the other part, which is there's been a significant increase in some expenses. Brad, I think Dr. Jackson brought it up during the meeting, was, hey, this is not sustainable, right? So I think that's right. So there's really two pieces to Scott's point. I think I'm in the same boat, which is, this is a beloved, a cherished educational option for the kids from our town and the other districts, other towns. I don't think we have a choice, but we can certainly make mention that, hey, we're not happy with the way this is going, and I think moving forward, we need to work through our two representatives on that 10-person board and make sure that they are well aware. We're not happy with the timing. We're not happy with the accuracy, the transparency, and the growth rate of expenses. And they need, I think that's the path forward, is they need to make sure that that's mentioned amongst that group. That's what I think. So, thank you.
Do you have anything, Marianne?
I kind of agree with everybody else, everything that's said. To Joe's point, is there a way to approve it and take out the Shawshene Tech? Because I know when we go through the budget during town meeting, it is taken up by department.
We can, I believe we can only vote the bottom line. We cannot go into individual line items in their budget. So in essence, we would be voting to not approve the text budget. And that might feel good to us because we've been dealing with this frustration. This is year 3. But what it sets up at town meeting is not going to advance any improvements in the presentation or accuracy of the budget. And it will reflect poorer on the Finance Committee than on the tech. And so I would caution any type of move such as that. What I would recommend is that any or all of us speak up when this budget comes up. And without getting into great detail, just say, we have grave concerns. We're not saying that the budget is wrong. We're saying that we're not confident that it's right. And that's a big concern when you're the Finance Committee. We're the people that are between the schools or the departments and the taxpayers. And our job is to watch out for the taxpayer, not to watch out for the schools or the department heads. So that's the position we're in, and I'm glad to see that we're all articulating basically the same feeling, and yet at the same time, we're here to do the best thing for the town and to not overstep and create negative actions that we may have to be confronted with down the road. Does anybody have any?
Just one last point, to Joe's point. This does feel unique in that, I'm still, this is only my second year here, but correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only piece of the budget that we're not solely responsible for as a town. As in, there's other communities that are.
Yes.
And so what's interesting here is the idea of maybe not a motion for this year, because we don't want to bring that negative attention without ignoring the problem, but is it possible to recommend that it's carved out in some way? And so the budget that the town taxpayers are solely responsible for reviewing and approving, where we have 100% say, versus here's this other thing out here it's a very important expense, and the reality is that it's, that if they're covering, new funding from an excess and deficiency fund, things like that, I mean, to me, that means we were overcharged, and that's a lack of planning. I view that as your individual tax return at the end of the year. You don't want to get a huge return. You don't want to owe a lot. You want to be as close to zero as possible, or else you haven't done a great job tax planning. In this situation, I feel it's very similar. If you are planning to fund a project from an excess that you've charged a town already, then you haven't done a great job planning, and I think it's kind of reflected in the proposed budget.
So the tech budget, as well as the Wilmington Schools budget, comes under the umbrella of the town. I could speak to the town manager about that, but I think it's unlikely that they would take a significant piece of a budget and move it out and present it separately. And again, what would that get us? We would still be put in a negative light we've tried in the past to go to town meeting and, prove a point that there's a problem here. And the only way we can do that is basically with dollars and cents. And it has not worked out well, although our warning last year not to let them keep E&D money has proven to be true. I mean, our warnings were disregarded, and now we're in a situation where they're building up E&D, and they're potentially bypassing a district vote on a feasibility study if they have sufficient funds to do so. So that's something they never would have had the money for if they had done what we had said they should continue to do, return E&D back to the communities. So, we could, I don't want to belabor the point. I will speak to the manager and confirm what I believe to be true, that we cannot carve it out. And maybe I'll have a conversation with him as to what he recommends to be a good way to approach this next year. And possibly asking the school committee members to be here for the presentation.
Just going to ask that. Can we have them come?
Certainly,
Can we have
yeah.
a special meeting now to raise our concerns so that next year, when we sit in the room, they can't say, well, it's already done, there's nothing we can do? Why don't we have a meeting now with those folks and get it on the agenda and get it on the calendar so that we can raise our concerns, so that next year they can't come in and say, oh, we weren't aware, we didn't have time, whatever. Let's do it now.
Well, the other thing, I
There
think.
was one
and I-
member of the school committee was here.
Yes,
The other
Mr.
was
Fiore
not.
was here, yes. I'm not sure if those folks also are financial people. So that's the other thing that we're dealing with. They're looking at a budget in a completely different way than we look at the budget. Their budget is formulated and put in front of them, and they're saying, oh, this is great, we're going to, build out that shop, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, and everybody's raises are coming through, things look fine. We're looking at it that the data may be correct, but the way you're assembling that data is not, and the numbers and percentages that you're coming up with are not correct. And they're deceiving, and that's something that they may not pick up on. If they were here for our meeting, it would have been very beneficial if we had both here, and I think that that's something we should definitely do next year, is
But
make
that's
sure
why
they're
I'm
here.
suggesting we have a meeting with them before next year's budget meeting, so that maybe as a group, we can educate them on what to look for, what questions to ask and how to probe, so that before the budget comes to us, in a manner that it's come to us in the last 3 years that I've been here, maybe they can try to fix it. And if they can't, then as a population of the town, we'll have to hold those folks accountable and vote for people who will hold them accountable. Because right now, it sounds like there's no control and no accountability. And I feel like we're all saying the same thing and going in circles, and we've got a lot of articles to cover.
Yep.
So it's just frustrating to me that we don't have responses to our questions and that there doesn't seem to be any accountability anywhere.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? We have a motion, we've had discussion, and we have a second. All those in favor?
Can I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
We have to be clear about what we're voting, well, I don't want to be, there have been changes from this to what is now, the town manager's made some adjustments. For example, the Shawshing Tech assessment is $900,000 lower than what he had originally recommended because of reduced enrollment, et cetera. And the Wildwood is in there, and there's other things that are in there. So can we amend the motion to say that we recommend the budget as amended by the town manager, as opposed to the one that's in this booklet? Because this booklet has been changed.
Right, we can say the budget as presented,
Yeah, okay.
and that will be the budget presented at town meeting, and it will be the final.
Okay.
And
Thank you. I
those
just wanna be-
numbers,
I
those
think-
numbers did change, but the way that we were able to get the Wildwood, that 1.8, part of that came from those changes at
Right.
the tech. So numbers are moving around. I don't think the bottom line changed much, but I understand what you're saying.
I just think it's important
Yeah.
that we
Mhm.
we are clear about what we're voting on.
Right.
And it's the budget that's been presented, which I like your word, as opposed to the budget that was dated January 29th.
Right, okay. So all those in favor of the budget as will be presented at town meeting? It's unanimous. Scott, you do not need additions.
I just did 5.
Oh, great, so now it's 6. Okay, Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $1,017,420 and appropriate the sum of $4,889,029 as designated for the following purposes. So there's close to 40 line items here, and this represents all the capital items between DPW, IT, police, public buildings, school, town clerk and town manager. I would just point out Wilmington Elementary School demolition is in here for 1.8, as well as the Roman House demolition for 200,000. I make a motion that we accept the capital items as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion?
Just to clarify for anyone who might be watching, it's a big number. Every single one of these items has been discussed at prior Finance Committee meetings. Just I want to make sure everybody's aware that we're not just passing this. These have all been discussed at
Right.
prior meetings.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to appropriate from PEG access and cable-related special revenue fund a sum of money to be expended under the directional select board for PEC access service pursuant to the provisions of MGL Chapter 44, Section 53F, 3/4, or take any other action related thereto. The town manager did state the article was for $500,000. I will make a motion to accept this article.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is the money that comes from cable. It flows through the town, and then it's distributed to cable TV, our local cable TV.
Only quick discussion point is the gentleman who runs that mentioned that 500,000 is the maximum allocation, that they have not received that amount in close to a decade. I think he said 435 was the number expected this year.
Right.
And there was a separate article presented, which I believe is to make up the gap, the stopgap for 65K, with specific expenses targeted with that money.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money for the funding of a 4th of July celebration, or take any other action thereto. The amount was $50,000. Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Okay, Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money for the observance of Memorial Day and Veterans Day, or take any other action related thereto. This is in a total of $13,000, and I make a motion to recommend approval of the article.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Is there discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Article 10, in summary, is $750 for two separate items, one related to the VFW Clubhouse and the other additional $750 to American Legion Clubhouse for a total of $1,500. So I would recommend an approval for this article.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Oh, Andy, did you vote? I'm sorry. Okay. I don't want to make any assumptions. Back to you, Chris.
Article 11, town to vote to determine spending limits for revolving accounts for basically the compost bin for $4,500, subsurface storage disposal for $200,000, and the high school field revolving fund for $25,000. I recommend we approve this article.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from departmental receipts or user fees a sum of money to operate the Department of Public Works Sewer Division enterprise or take any other action related thereto. Please check my number. The number I have is $4,092,793.
That's what I have.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend approval of Article 12.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money to deposit in the other post-employment liability trust fund established in accordance with MGL Chapter 32B, Section 20, or take any other action related thereto. This is for $1 million. I recommend, I'm going to make a motion that we recommend approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money to deposit in the Capital Stabilization Fund as established by vote on Article 23 at the April 27, 1991 annual town meeting, or take any action related thereto. The dollar value is $4 million. It's coming from free cash. And my motion, I'll make a motion to approve the article.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just have one comment, and I just don't know why we're taking it from free cash to capital stabilization fund.
He's trying to build capital stabilization up again after we'll be taking 15 million out for the substation.
But they're basically both the same kind of account. The capital stabilization fund is actually restricted.
It is.
More so than the free cash. So
But the bond markets like it better than free cash. So I agree with you. It's very restrictive to get the money out. It requires a 2/3 vote at town meeting as opposed to a majority vote to move money from free cash. But this is where we're at, where we have to utilize it. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money to deposit in the retirement stabilization fund or take any other action related thereto. The amount is $1.5 million. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Article 16, to see what sum the town will vote to transfer into various line items of the fiscal year 2026 budget from other line items of said budget and from other available funds, or take any other action related thereto. So there's no dollar amount here. There may be,
We can pass over
Right,
on
we
this one if you want.
sure. I'll suggest passing over this.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so the motion is to pass over this article. If it should be needed, we will be introduced to it at town meeting, as we normally are. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor to pass over this article? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money to cover a shortfall in the town's snow and ice budget, or take any other action related thereto. So this is an article we see every year. We don't know if there's going to be a shortfall. Has been snowy and icy, but I don't have a dollar amount here to present, so recommend passing over this article.
Okay.
Second.
All right, the motion is to pass over this article. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money to complete the construction of the North Wilmington Fire Substation or any other action related thereto. I do not have a sum written down. If
It's
anyone,
16 million is
But it's
the,
not the total cost of the project.
right.
it's
there
not the
was-
total cost of the project, but it's what they would be looking to complete the funding
It's the
of the
remaining.
project.
Yeah.
It's the remaining cost of the
Yeah.
project.
I was told very firmly that it will change, but if it changes, it will decrease.
Yeah.
So 16 million is what
The max.
in the budget.
It was 12 million from free
Free
cash and
cash and
4 million
4
from the
million
overlay, I believe.
Okay. All right, that's important.
And then
Hallelujah.
just for history of this was, the project itself was voted on last year, and so this article is purely related to funding. And so with that in mind, I recommend approval of this article.
Second?
We have approval, we have a second. Do we have any discussion?
Hallelujah.
I'm sorry?
Hallelujah.
Do you want that in the minutes? Any other discussion?
Just one from me, Teresa. So I did hear the comment that this will likely go down before town meeting, but it was likely or maybe kind of language. So, I do want to point out that it was a $12 million figure. Now it's a $16 million figure. Everybody's got their fingers crossed that it'll come in lower than that, but there is a possibility that it doesn't. So, we just don't know what we don't know at this point, and given that the cost has gone up to 16, I don't want the town to think that it's absolutely going to be less than 16.
Right.
Or at least that was my takeaway.
Right. We do not know, but we are only authorizing up to 16 million. There's a lot of uncertainty out there now, even more so than when they started this project. So costs could increase substantially, and at that time, the town manager would have to, find a way to handle that.
Yeah, the warrant article prohibits them from going over 16, so they would have to come back and ask for more money if they do
Right.
go over.
Right.
Which, the reality at that point is, we've spent 16
Right.
plus the feasibility, like if
Plus
it's,
the 4 that we've already allocated last year, 4.5, I think. Yeah. Any other discussion on this article? Hearing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Article 19, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer available funds to borrow pursuant to any applicable statute, a sum of money to construct the Woburn Street Water Booster Station or take any action related thereto. And I apologize, I don't have a number written down for this.
2.7 million?
0.7, okay, thank
Be
you,
funded by the Sewer Enterprise Fund,
thank you.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
I motion we approve this article.
second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
How did I get this one? Article 20, I want to move seats. Article 20, to see if the town of Wilmington will approve appropriating $311,771 from free cash for the Shawshene Valley Regional Vocational Technical School District for the purpose of paying costs of a feasibility study on behalf of the Shawshene Valley Technical High School located in Billerica, Massachusetts, for which the district may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA, and said amount to be expended at the direction of the School Building Committee for the Shawshene Valley Regional Vocational Technical School District. I make a motion that we approve, that we recommend approval of Article 20.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, and I'm sure there's discussion. No?
Kind of beaten this to death, haven't we? Come on, let's go, come on.
No, I think there is,
Well-
I think there is a difference between the budget conversation
Yeah.
and the conversation
That's good.
about this article. And I guess if I could, Shasheen, and I have to, first of all, admit and remind the committee and anyone who happens to be watching that I have a lot of history with this article. I was the superintendent of the Shawshene Valley Regional High School from 2020 to 2022. And in 2022, I initiated the first foray into this process with the MSBA by submitting the first step, which was not approved at that time, but subsequent to that has been. The Shawshene Tech is a building that is approaching 55-plus years old, and is a school that has been used to, and it is exceeding its capacity, and it's not totally meeting the demands of the 5 communities, as witnessed by the fact that there are students who do not get in from Wilmington and from other places. So they have some issues, both in terms of age of the building and size of the building, maybe not meeting demand. Now, I know that many around this table have some concerns about about the lack of oversight that member communities would have on what could become a sizable, extraordinarily large project. And I know that others, myself included, have some concerns about the timing of this as it relates to local issues. So, for example, we just approved a very large elementary school that, and have plans 10 years out to do, to replace, basically, we're replacing our fleet, if you will. And other communities may be in the same case. Nonetheless, ultimately, this is an issue that, in my opinion, should be decided by the voters of the 5 communities. I'm actually hopeful that this article will not be withdrawn, so that the members of our community and the other 4 communities can have a say as to whether or not this feasibility study should move forward. I personally think it should. I think that in spite of the operational issues that we've expressed legitimate concerns about, the building itself is inarguably in need of either a major renovation or a complete overhaul, or an expansion or a replacement. That is what a feasibility study does. And I think it's difficult, and I know it's difficult for the members of this board, but I think it's difficult to not ignore. I think those issues need to be considered strongly, while understanding that there are hopefully short-term issues that this board, and I suspect other members of the community, have about the current state of operations at the tech. So I advocate approval of this because this is looking at the long term, and I don't think that our short-term concerns I don't think it negates those long-term issues that need to be addressed. That building is not getting any younger, it's not getting any bigger, and the demand is not getting any lower.
Any other discussion?
I appreciate all those comments. I have thought about this and gone back and forth of what I want to do with this article. For me, though, it comes down to, Brad was just talking about, the short term versus the long term there, and the people who have made the short term decisions that we have been unhappy with are the people that are going to make these long term financial decisions. And until they can demonstrate to me that they are making wise decisions and presenting things clearly, I have a hard time putting them in charge of this project.
I agree.
Yeah. So, being involved in the Wilmington Elementary project, to Scott's concerns, MSBA is partnering with them on this school project. And I have to say that MSBA looks at every line item. So any concern about, bad accounting or anything from the tech is not going to be a concern with building or the feasibility study. They need to bring on very credentialed people for OPMs, for construction, and there's no way that any of that would ever fall through the cracks in the size of the project, just as part of your comment there. Everything is checked 10 different ways, and MSBA does not go anywhere lightly. Every line item is checked. This is millions and millions of dollars of state money, and they just are not haphazard at all. Everything is checked and rechecked. Just any sort of concern about any accounting procedure. Thank you.
Chris?
I'm pro new school. I'm actually in favor of the feasibility study, but I am voting no because it is our one way to protest what is happening with that school, what is happening with the leadership, what is happening with the lack of responses, and this is the only article that I can voice some concern on, so I am voting no. And I think that this is an opportunity for the Finance Committee to say enough. We need better answers, we need better accountability, and we need more information before we can approve any funding from the town going.
Can I just follow up to that? So if you vote no and another community votes no, they get kicked out of the MSBA program, and they would need to go ahead and reapply. So to me, a protest vote just for that, not doing that school any good. And to Brad's point, it's an older school and it needs attention. They would not be in the MSBA program if there wasn't a dire need in that school. Just my comment.
Anthony?
I have to agree. I think we just passed as a town a very large elementary school project that's costing a lot of money. I think, I know we're the Finance Committee, but I do think this is an equity issue. I fully agree with Chris's point. However, I think if we vote against this, the people who suffer are not the administration, it's the kids who would go to that school. Those 263 kids who are due to go to that school and 311 the year before. As of the most recent census available, there's about 8,100, this is a rough estimate, tax-paying homes in Wilmington. So if we divide this number by 8,100 homes, it's less than $40 a home to conduct this specific feasibility study. So $40 a home is $3 a month, even less, you know. So point being is, I like when I see an odd number, 311,771. That looks like a number. And to Mary Ann's point, that the state will make sure that's a real number. When I see other numbers in articles that are very round numbers, to me that looks like a made-up number. That's where I stand. I think it's short money to conduct we're not committing to a new school. We're saying, what's it going to take to commit to a new school? And so that's my viewpoint.
Or renovated school.
Any other comments? All right, my comment is I agree with each and every comment that was made. Which makes it very difficult. I think that even though I totally agree with you, Chris, I came in thinking that I was not going to support this, feeling that the Finance Committee would ultimately approve it, possibly. But I now feel that maybe the problems that we're having that are, kind of jading our relationship with the tech, hopefully will be short-lived. I do have very serious concerns of how this impacts Wilmington, should this school get into the MSBA. And I feel like if you're doing a feasibility study and you've been accepted by MSBA, the chances are very, very good you're building or renovating a school. So I'm very, very concerned with the impact on Wilmington, only because of what we've already committed in the next 10, 15, 20 years in our community. But nevertheless, all children deserve a good education in a good building, and I will reluctantly agree to support this article. So have we had plenty of discussion on this? All right, so the motion was made by Brad and seconded by Mary Ann to approve Article 20. All those in favor? Okay, and all those opposed? Okay, so we have 2 opposed and 6 in favor. Thank you, that was very good discussion.
Article 21, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute the sum of $192,919 to correct a prior year's adjustment that was posted incorrectly or take any other action related thereto. I will recommend approval of this article. Make a motion to recommend approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion? Brad?
I don't understand this article at all.
Yeah, apparently, in the annual audit, they did not like the way a transaction was recorded, and so they need to make an adjustment on it. I agree with you, it hasn't been.
It's very vague.
The details have not been.
That's a very vague statement.
Right. But in any event, per the auditor, we have to make the correction. I will reach out to the town manager to get more insight to share with you.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
There needs to be a little more transparency here. I mean, if they do say to correct a prior, so that was posted incorrectly, so there was an error, or a miscalculation. Money was put in column A and it should have been put in column B.
That's the way I understand it.
That's the way I kind of understand it too, but I need to know what A and B were without knowing who did it, or, I mean, unfortunately, it may be clear it's a department or something, but I just think there needs to be more clarity to this. And frankly, I think it's our responsibility to ask for it, because we're pretty savvy about what goes on in the town budget, probably among the top 50 in this town who knows what's going on with this budget. And this is a very vague explanation, and I think I'll vote to support this. My caveat is that my vote at town meeting and my conversation at discussion, if any, at town meeting, will require a little more detail to make sure I feel confident in my recommendation.
I've made a note
Thank you.
to reach out and get that information, and it will be distributed to the committee.
Thank you very much, Teresa.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we have a motion by Scott, second by Mary Ann, to approve Article 21. All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute the sum of $500,000, or transfer to the sewer enterprise fund, or take any other action related thereto. So this is a transfer from free cash to the enterprise fund and will not be returned back to free cash, to avoid extraordinary sewer charges to people in town who are on sewer. They've had some pretty major improvements that they've had to make, and emergency construction that they've had to do, and this is to prevent individuals from bearing a big piece of that. So my motion will be to accept Article 22. Second. Any discussion? Yes. Mhm.
So my understanding, I think this was brought up in the meeting, in the prior meeting, once it goes from free cash to the sewer fund, it stays there.
It's going to stay
It does
there.
not return out.
No. Yeah,
To be spent by the water and sewer commissioners.
Right, yeah.
yeah. More or less to reimburse them for some of their costs that they had. They had a big water main break, I believe it was on West Street.
Sewer.
Sewer
This is for
break,
sewer,
yeah.
though,
Yeah,
so it's-
yeah, sewer.
The sewer break
Um,
was on
the sewer break,
Salem
yeah.
Street.
Thank you. So apparently there's a very small number of people on sewer in our town, and this is to help them not bear the brunt of some pretty big projects.
Just on that topic, does anyone here know roughly how many people are actually on the town sewer?
I don't know.
Because everyone I know, I mean, I know it exists, but everyone I know personally has a septic system. That doesn't mean they don't exist. But again, to my comment earlier about round numbers, there were expenses that were spent because of emergencies. I doubt that they're exactly $500,000. Is it 493,000 and we're giving a buffer? Like, what's the actual number that we're?
I don't know. I think my sense is that, and I could be wrong, my sense is that it's an accumulation of charges that hit that account, and this is just an amount to try to bring it down to a level that would be fair to the sewer homes in Wilmington.
So to, I think, maybe answer that question, but it also kind of clouds some of this. So back on, I think it was the 29th, the meeting we had on the January 29th, we made a transfer from the I forget what it's called, the Finance Committee Fund. What is?
Oh, from our, yeah.
Of,
Emergency fund.
to the sewer, to cover the costs of those fixes. It was $562,095.46. So an exact number on that.
Okay.
And then for the overtime account, $22,904.54. So those are your exact amounts.
But that money's already been paid.
That money was paid, and we're reimbursing from the town budget to cover those sewer costs. So I think these are in addition
Right.
to that.
Yeah, it has
So,
to be.
so that project was already covered by town dollars. And here's where my kind of issue comes in on this, is that if you're on sewer, it's a service you pay for. And we're asking people who don't have the availability to use that service to subsidize people who do have the availability. And I kind of have a problem with taking town money from some people to give to others to cover services that they get that other people don't. And I know the town manager mentioned, like the senior center and stuff like that. I see this as a little bit different because this is a direct service charge that are, given to people based off of the cost to run the system. So I don't like what we're doing with this warrant article.
Can I react to that? If it's right? I was thinking the same thing when we were talking about Shawsheen. My neighbor who's in her 80s, or the school budget, she's not consuming the services of the high school or Shawsheen Tech, and she never will.
Yep.
Right? So these are things that happen within the structure of municipalities. And I heard you the other day bring that up, right? You did.
Yeah.
Scott, I hear you. I just don't know a solution to that problem. Right? Like, how do you not get the whole town into a vote on something that they don't necessarily consume, specifically in this case, the sewer? Like, that's just a hard break to make. So I just don't know how to fix that problem, but I totally hear your comments on it.
Okay. So I had a little different perspective on this because my mind went where you were going, Scott, and I don't have sewer, why are we paying this, right? But if something goes awry with the sewage lines, they're ripping up our streets and our sidewalks, and it's directly affecting everybody in the town, or at least in the vicinity of the town. So I did think about it through that perspective. So that's number one. Number two, when we made that transfer, it was based on surprise, we have a sewage line that just disintegrated into the ground and nobody knew about it or had any type of proactive view on it. And what I didn't know about, because I viewed this 500 grand as almost like a cushion to somewhat be proactive to prevent those types of sewage mishaps where you have the big problems and you can use lower maintenance. So in that view, I would be in favor of that. So I just want to give my perspective on it.
So it was a long night, Thursday night, but I do seem to recall Eric saying that this might not be the last time this has to happen because there is some issue, the water and sewer commissioners have some concerns about whether the rates can cover the cost of running. This is what I heard. I'm not saying this is true. This is what I thought I heard. The rates and the necessary, they don't feel comfortable increasing the rates at a level that would cover what perhaps may be the future costs of running our sewer system. Full disclosure, I am on sewer. My house is on sewer. So I think there's a bigger conversation that needs to happen here about if that is true, I think the water and sewer commissioners should come in and meet with the finance committee and start having some conversations about this. Because, and not just with the town manager, who I appreciate is the chief executive officer of our community, but we need to kind of get in the loop here, because if we have an enterprise fund that may not be sustainable and able to cover all of its costs based on its income, then that's an issue that could affect the taxpayers and not just the ratepayers. To me, if this is the tip of the iceberg, I look at this I really struggle with this, because I do wonder if this is the tip of the iceberg, or if this is a one-time, the way you described it was, oh, we had some extraordinary issues, unanticipated extraordinary issues. I didn't, that's not what I heard the town manager say. And so I'm really hard pressed to find, I just think this is a precedent that is going to be very hard to reverse. And I think we have to be careful, thoughtful. I do feel at some level I don't even have enough information to make a informed decision, and I should have asked more questions, I apologize, Thursday night, but this isn't as simple as it looks.
I have already added that to my list to communicate with Eric about more detail on it.
I think just quickly, it's a great point, and Marianne always likes to ask the question of, is this a one-time thing, or are we going to see this every year going forward for various articles? And I think that that's a valid point. Is this, we paid the 562 and change in a previous action. This 500,000 round figure seems to be to sort of put a buffer back into place. If I remember the meeting with the DPW correctly, this was, they thought it was a repair, they got underground, and oops, it's in disrepair. And we have to replace the whole thing, and there was environmental issues and things like that. So tip of the iceberg is very possible. Once you start digging, you're gonna find things that you didn't know was there. And I think it could very possibly be something that starts to show up each year. It may not be 500,000, but I think that's a fair question to ask the town manager or the manager of the DPW.
Anyone else? Okay, the motion was made by myself, second by Mary Ann. We've had discussion. All those in favor? All right, so we have 6 in favor and 2 opposed.
No, I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Are you abstaining, Chris?
I'm
or-
opposed.
I'm sorry?
I am opposed. I don't think we have enough information and would like more clarity before I agree to spend $500,000 on and potential ongoing expense for the town.
And I'm abstaining for the same reason.
Article 23, to see if the town will vote to continue its participation in the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority Financial Assistance Program, which provides grants and interest-free loans for the purpose of funding an infiltration and inflow reduction in sewer system rehabilitation program, and to authorize the selectman and/or town manager to accept said grants and to execute documents relative to the interest-free loans as may be required, and further to appropriate said funds for engineering services, construction or reconstruction of sewers, sewage systems, and sewage disposal facilities and apparatus, and determine how the same shall be raised, whether by taxation, transfer, or borrowing, or any combination thereof, or take any action related thereto. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Article 24, to see if the town will vote to transfer pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 15A of the general laws, the care, custody, and control of the Wildwood School as shown as of parcel 23 on Wilmington's Assessor Map 60, further identified as 178 Wildwood Street, from the Wilmington School Committee, which has declared such site surplus and unnecessary for the educational purposes of the Wilmington Public Schools, to the care, custody, and control of the Select Board and under the management of the town manager for general municipal purposes, or take any other action related thereto. I propose was approval of this article.
Second.
All right, we have an approval, a recommendation, and a second. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Article 25, to see if the town will vote to transfer pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 15A of the general laws, the care, custody, and control of the Wilmington Arts Center, as shown as of parcel 16 on Wilmington's Assessor Map 65, further identifies 219 Middlesex Ave from the Wilmington School Committee, which has declared such site surplus and unnecessary for the educational purposes of the Wilmington Public Schools, to the care, custody, and control of the Select Board, and under the management of the town manager for general municipal purposes, or take any other action related thereto. I so move, recommending acceptance of Article 25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can I ask a quick educational question on this? We're transferring the control to the select board from whom?
The school.
Committee.
Okay, thank you.
And it will be, it's slated to be the new home of the Veterans Administration. So we have a motion, a second, discussion. All those in favor? Thank you, it's unanimous. Chris?
Article 26 is to approve the HERO Act, which gives...
Anthony was next.
That's okay.
Was it me?
Go
I
ahead.
didn't think it was me.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
That's all
I
right.
just wanted to get you in the action here. That's all.
I do what I'm told most times.
I know, yeah.
Like, I don't want to read it anyway.
I can or he can finish. It doesn't matter. Whatever you
Go
prefer.
right
We
ahead,
just
Anthony.
switched. No, you take the
Go
next
ahead,
one.
Okay.
Anthony, so we don't...
I did take notes ahead of time. So Article 26, to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22I and/or 22J, as inserted pursuant to Chapter 178 of the Act of 2024, the so-called quote-unquote HERO Act, or take any action related thereto. In summary review, my layman interpretation was this was a COLA for veteran exemptions, and the amount is doubling from 120K to 240K. And with that in mind, I vote to recommend to approve this article. It is effectively just accepting the Massachusetts general law.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just quick for me, this one was actually confusing for me a little bit because there are non-reimbursable items from the state that you're incorporating by reference into the, they're not incorporating into the bylaws, it looks like. We're just voting to accept the provisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are some funds. I'm all in favor of, funding for veteran services. It's a no-brainer, but,
A lot to do with offering reduced taxes, real estate taxes for veterans that...
yeah, these are for tax exemptions.
Yeah.
But I did hear some chatter during the hearing that a portion of it may be not reimbursable by the state. And I was not clear on what that was. One of these clauses in the state law, that one is for the cost of living adjustment, but others were some doubling provision that was not reimbursable. So it may have an impact both for veterans and the town. I just have no idea what that impact is.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, the article, the motion is to recommend approval of Article 26. All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. And now, Chris.
Change to the zoning bylaws as the definition of a general service restaurant. Food service establishments as defined by the state sanitary code where food, alcohol, beverages, and non-alcoholic beverages are sold to customers at table or counter, and where food, alcohol, beverages, and non-alcoholic beverages may also be sold to customers for consumption on an outdoor patio or off-premise as carry-out. Given that the planning board has approved it, I make a motion that we accept Article 27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? And I'll have to put him.
Article 28, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by creating a new brewery, distillery, winery use and amending Table 1 principal use regulations as follows, or take any action related thereto. And there is a new proposed section 3.6.8 of our zoning bylaws that defines a brewery, distillery, winery, and amends the principal use regulations by adding the new use category that's saying that those defined entities would be allowed only in
High industrial districts.
high industrial districts in the town. I would recommend that I would move that the Finance Committee recommend approval of Article 28.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Oh,
Article 29, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by deleting the current accessory dwelling unit ADU section 4.2 in its entirety and replacing it with a new section 4.2, or to take any other action related thereto. Unfortunately, I wasn't at this portion of the meeting, so I cannot give a summary for you. But Planning Board did recommend approval, so I will make a motion that we recommend approval.
Second.
I think it was just one word, right?
Yeah, it was.
Is
that what it was?
The lawyers recommended to remove the word all or something like that.
Yeah, they had put it up.
It was
It was at 4.2.1, they, the original one said, the one that we voted on said ADUs shall meet all
Setback.
right.
Yeah.
requirements of the underlying zoning district. And this one says, took out the word all and added setback and height. So it only said that ADUs have to meet the setback and height requirements as opposed to all requirements. Which
in my mind-
which they consider a minor change, and because the other requirements are really not applicable.
I was just going to say, in my mind, it doesn't change the spirit of what this ADU article was about, and from a finance committee perspective, I don't see it being significant.
I could be wrong, but I think they also struck the word dimensional, and what they were trying to accomplish was just defining what the dimensions are, and that's just the setback and height requirements. So both in spirit and just getting more granular in the bylaw itself, to me, I didn't see this as a concern personally.
Any other discussion? Not hearing any. We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. I also want to just let you all know that the planning board did vote to approve 3-1 on Article 27 for the general service restaurant. On Article 28 for the brewery, distillery, and winery, they recommended the same by a vote of 3-0 to approve. And on Article 29, they recommended approval 3-1 for the accessory dwelling unit that we just voted on. However, they did mention on Article 30, there was a split in the vote, 2 approved and 1 disapproved. I reached out to the planning director, and I was told that the reason for the disapproval was more about the aesthetics of a sign. And had no technical reason to disagree with it. Just didn't like the idea of a billboard.
Any clarity, Teresa? if I
Yeah,
may?
I was gonna- yeah,
Sorry,
I think-
like all the votes were different, like it was 3 to 1, 3 to 0, 2 to 1, so.
No, they were all 3-0, except for the last one, that was 2
Oh,
to 1.
you said-
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you said 3 to 1 as well, Joe, that's what I heard.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe I did.
Because I was like, what are the dissenting votes
Had
for?
one
They were all had a
this
problem.
morning.
You need another cup of
All
coffee?
I
Teresa?
know is I got a lot of people listening very intently to what I say.
We
I'm
take
not
this
used to
serious.
that. No one listens to me at home.
No, I don't agree.
Teresa, can I clear the, I just, point of clarity, on 30, which was the billboard, you're saying they approved it,
They
but it
approved
was
it.
2 to 1?
It was
Okay,
2 to
I just
1.
want to be, okay, got it.
Right,
Thank
and
you.
I just wanted to mention that because we usually put a lot of emphasis on what the planning board,
Yeah.
how they vote on things, not always, but I just wanted to let you know. All right, so this is my article. Article 30, to see if the town will vote to amend the Wilmington zoning bylaw and associated zoning district map of the town of Wilmington as follows: to create a new billboard overlay district or add any other action related thereto. So we spent quite a bit of time discussing this. My notes indicate the proposed area has no residential abutters. Important. The town does stand to develop a revenue flow from somebody having a billboard. It's two-sided billboard. They're estimating we may receive $25,000 per side per year, just as an estimate. My concern was, since this is a town-sponsored article, and it affects only one personally owned space, lot, that if anybody else were, see, normally when we rezone like that, we'll go in and we'll say it encompasses this entire area. So maybe the reasoning to not do that is because you could be allowing that in an area that does have more association with residential people, and that would be very unpopular, I'm sure. So my concern was that if they were to have somebody else apply for a billboard, that the town bring that article forward as well, and so that it carries with it the same authority into town meeting as this one will.
So, not to interrupt, but I think that's what 6.12.2 does, because right now, it says that the billboard overlay district is essentially limited to that parcel.
Yes.
So they would have to come back to town meeting to amend this section to add another parcel.
Mhm.
So it couldn't be added, and the select board doesn't have the authority to add a second billboard in town. It would, because this is just limited to that one parcel.
Right.
Any amendment to this has to come before town meeting.
Absolutely, but the town should bring it to town meeting as opposed to the individual property owner.
Right.
Well,
Because-
we can't control that.
Well, no, we can, and that was my question, and the town agreed that they would not have individuals coming forward. When the town brings a motion to town meeting, it carries a lot of authority with it. And as opposed to one of us deciding a year from now that we want to participate, they'll say, well, who's that? You know, no, we don't, not sure what you're doing, we're not sure everything's going to work out well. My point was the town should bring anybody else forward so that they have the same benefit that this individual property owner has right now. Because what we're doing as a town is saying that you, as that property owner, we have just given you the right to generate revenue on your property that no one in town has.
It's a monopoly.
So if we're going to go to town meeting and say, we think this is a good idea, that this property owner have this advantage, but you can't have it and you can't have it, you should at least have the same protection and the same process of achieving the same goal. And the only way you'll have that is if the town brings your article forward.
But what if the town disagrees with where somebody wants to
Then
put
the
a
town
billboard?
won't bring it forward.
Okay, so then
Right.
they wouldn't do what you just said. What you're suggesting is that every time somebody wants a billboard, the town would bring it forward, but if the town doesn't approve, then they
Right.
can't bring it forward.
Right,
So,
but if the town doesn't, so if you come forward and it's on Glen Road, for instance,
wherever.
and you, but it's a totally unacceptable area to have that, and that's in your own perception. You may think, well, yeah, we get a lot of traffic on Glen Road. Why can't I put up a billboard? The town is obviously going to say, we're not going to support that. That's inappropriate.
But the word you used was that the town would bring everyone forward, and now you're saying
Well,
the
I'm
town
sorry,
wouldn't
what I
bring that
meant to
forward.
say is
So it's
every-
not the same, you're contradicting yourself.
No.
What I meant to say is every applicant that meets the criteria
Oh.
of the bylaw.
Perfect.
I
On
assumed
board.
that was
Okay.
implied.
So, not to be argumentative, but
Go
what's
ahead.
to stop that Glen Road resident from putting in a petition warrant article?
Nothing.
They can.
They
Right.
can, but the town would have.
But they wouldn't be zoned for it, because
Well, they can't.
they'd have to change the zoning, which they could do, and they would have an uphill battle.
They'd have to take multiple steps, right?
Yeah.
Similar to what we're doing right now, because this is to zone it in a certain way so that that space can be used for that.
Right.
Right? Like, that's what the ask is, and so what we're
Right.
saying is, it very well, if we tried to do it on Chestnut Street or whatever street, right, it would be shot at.
Right, but it could be brought to town meeting.
It could be.
It
but not
could
by the
be.
town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just not by the town. I
Right.
just don't think we can prohibit
No, you can't prohibit that.
someone from...
Teresa's saying if it qualifies, the town should bring it forward. and
Yes.
And Eric said that they would.
Yes.
And that's the clarification.
I just want to make sure that everybody that wants to establish this has the same, is on the same footing as this individual. And I'm saying that because this is not a true overlay where it encompasses multiple
Right. It's
pieces
what-
of property. It's one property owner that's going to benefit from this.
If we had a motion and a second, because
We
we
have
seem to
not.
be in the discussion.
Yeah.
I would just add
Well,
one.
wait, we should motion before we have more discussion,
That's a
right?
fair
Yeah.
point.
Motion and second, and then,
All right,
Yeah.
this is my article, I'll make the motion that we approve Article 30.
Second.
there you go. Now discussion, have at it.
Okay.
We went out of order there.
You're right. We're on the finance committee for the town. This is potentially going to generate revenue for the town. So in a vacuum, I think that that's a good thing. My understanding was that there will be no residential negative impact. I know that area roughly by sight. There was a woman at the public hearing who thought there may have been closer residential properties, but I wasn't clear where that was.
The driveway to the apartments in the back.
And
That apartment complex
Just before.
in Woburn, just before the Wilmington line, going north on 93.
okay, that's a Woburn problem then.
That's kind of what they were
Yeah.
saying too, right?
Yeah, so, I mean,
have
to
you
be-
reached out? No, not really.
So I could see it being worse at night if it's a double-sided LED sign, something like that. But in general, anything that brings revenue to the town legally, I think is a good thing. I think it was Gary from the select board who stood up and said he wished that there was a second one brought forth, not just one, but I think that was his point when he stood up personally. That's like, I understand your point, Teresa. I may be wrong, but I think the spirit of this is like kind of testing the waters. Is this something that Wilmington can do to generate revenue going forward? Let's try it out in an area where nobody really cares that the sign exists.
My concern is that we've been given a map, and the article states 1,500 feet, but the map doesn't give us any dimensions. And although I asked the town manager, and he assured us that only one could fit, my concern is if this landowner buys 10 more feet of property, 20 more feet of property, I don't know how long this piece of property is in footage. And I'm worried that they're gonna figure out a way to weasel in a second one or a third one, because if they buy more property, then will they have a way around the 1,500 feet? If you tell me that this is 1,500 feet and that's it, then great, but what about this chunk of land here in the bottom of the map? I don't know who owns that, and if they buy that, can they now put in a second one? Because they'll be 1,500 feet apart, one on one corner and one on the other.
Well, as long as it's 1,500 feet apart, then it
Yeah,
agrees with the state, and these are state regulations.
Well, state regulation's 1,000.
1,000,
So we've
so-
expanded that. I'm just concerned
Yeah.
that, again, a private resident is gonna, or private landowner is gonna be given an advantage over the town. They've requested one, and is there any possible way for them to manipulate that and put in a second? And is that, I've drive by that all the time, and it feels like it could be a lot in that space if they figure out how to manage a second one. And I don't know why the map didn't include the footage if the
Yeah.
article states a specific amount of footage. So I'm not suggesting that what we've been told is wrong, I'm just airing a concern.
Actually, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe the chair of the planning board brought it up and was looking at it. And I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I believe he confirmed with the dimensions on the map
Oh.
that
I think
it was.
it was Bill Cavan. He was on his phone. I think he's the one that had pulled it up.
Well,
Oh, did-
no,
oh,
it was
so-
right here. It was Terry Bowling.
Oh, I.
He may have done the
yeah,
same thing
I think he
as
had
well,
pulled it
yeah.
up on some app thing
Oh.
Yeah,
to confirm it, but can I say one thing?
sure.
I'm going to vote against it. I don't want a billboard in my town like that. I want to be a good neighbor, and for me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So that's my take. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but that's the way I feel.
Okay,
Thanks.
Joe.
I'll give my perspective. I respect you. I disagree. So in this case, it seems to be reasonably confined to, I view this as almost like a pilot where we're scoping out feasibility and, we're trying to get revenue for the town. And I'm always going to be open-minded to innovative solutions to help the bottom line for the town. Agree, some billboards are ugly, but there may be some utility for the town in, as far as the messaging that could be advertised to commuters on 93. The wild card for me really was, we're looking at this from the perspective of a bylaw as it applies to Wilmington. There are abutters very close over the Woburn line. And what I don't know is whether there's any state laws that implicate the distance between a billboard and any resident of the state and not just within the confines of a particular town. So that to me was something that, town council would need to hammer out. So to me, and it was limited in scope, and from an equity standpoint, it doesn't stop others from petitioning the planning board or the town, which would require a bylaw change every single time a new billboard was being scoped. And it would give the town the opportunity to look at every individual parcel for appropriateness. This seems so out of the way for me that it didn't look like a big impact to any residents of Wilmington. So just want to give my perspective.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. All right, so having made a motion and a second and having had discussion, all those in favor of approving Article 30? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All those opposed? 2. Abstaining?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't there for the discussion, and I'd like to see that before
Okay.
how it was presented in the discussion of it.
Okay, so the motion passes with 4, and,
43 passed.
oh, I'm sorry, of course you did, yeah. I completely forgot, Mary Ann. Okay, so the motion passes with 4 approved.
to the next page. Article 31. Oh, yeah, go ahead, yeah, so. Go for it.
You're not going to read this all, are you?
31.
Whew, there was lots of discussion the other night.
So,
Oh, God.
to see if the town will vote to adopt and add as chapter 148 to the inhabited bylaw as a demolition delay bylaw in the form set forth below, or take any action related thereto. This would be demolition of historic buildings, and the article reads as in the booklet. My motion would be to disapprove this article.
I second.
Who seconded? Joe? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. The motion is to disapprove the article, and I'm sure there's some discussion. Or are we all
Well,
exhausted?
we kind of beat this to death the other night, so. But no.
What?
Can I just say, we talked about this.
Talk into the
Yeah,
mic, please.
We all talked about, I think, this in detail 2 days ago, right? There are a lot of things I think we all had issues with, maybe to varying degrees. It could be the how it's written, right? It could be the timing. It could be the restrictive nature of it. There are situations where people can be harmed and not even know it, potentially. There are a lot of things that I think we're just not getting right still on this article, same as the last one. And so, I think for those reasons, and when we talked ad nauseum about this the other night, right? I think everyone was pretty much on similar pages to maybe varying degrees. I'm definitely going to vote against this. I still think we're not getting it right, and I think that's probably the most important thing. Certainly, I support historic. Sorry, this one's near and dear to my heart. I support historic things. I just don't want to be it done. I don't want it to be done at a penalty to homeowners in our town, and I still think it is. So, thanks.
Joe?
Yeah, so, I think there's a lot of problems in there, but, I don't want the perception to be that Lavino wants to knock down every historic home in the town.
Mm-hmm.
But there's ways that this could be cured. So, I mean, the concerns have been well vocalized for two times we've gone through this, right? If the concerns are heard well and actually incorporated, where we have protections and some transparency for these folks that are looking to purchase these homes, and that they don't get blindsided, that they have to go through this process and then have to find a purchaser, do a renovation, do all of these things, with all of the burden on that person, and all of this subjective, just kind of open-ended, reasonable person standard that's being placed by the commission to really vote any way they want without any reasonable guardrails as to how they vote. If they have the ability to put forth a proposal that cures all of those things, I'm open-minded. I'm all in. But we are very, very far away, and in my opinion, I feel we have to disapprove.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm just going to chime in with having given this a lot of thought over the last couple of days since our last meeting. I really think if the Historic Commission was in front of us today, I would say this is way too broad. You have the ability to pull people into your sphere at the last minute. Which is unfair. I think what they should do is define what buildings belong in their group. Define it. They've pretty much done that. They can tighten it up. They can do a lot more with that group and make them sign an agreement saying they understand that this is what's going to happen if you should choose to demo your building, your structure. I think by focusing this type of punitive legislation against people who just happen to live in the neighborhood, have an old house, but it's not really of historic value, you're pulling them into something that is costly, timely, and totally unfair. So, any other comments? All right, having had discussion, there's a motion and a second to disapprove Article 31. All those in favor of disapproving Article 1?
31.
What did I say?
You're just adding one.
All right, I should go home. Thank you.
Okay, so
Is it you,
number
Mary Ann?
32. Article 32. To see if the town will vote to approve the placement of a monument in memory of Stephen Scanlon, a longtime Hall of Fame coach of ice hockey and soccer at Wilmington High School. The monument will be placed at Wilmington High School beside the monument of Steve's father, Dick Scanlon. There will be no need for funding from the town, as all money has been raised by friends, family, and former players of Coach Scanlon, or take any other action related thereto. I motion for approval of this article.
Discussion, I just have one, like I said at the public hearing, I just would like the school committee to approve it. It's their building, they have to live with it, so. I guess, can we amend the motion to approve it pending school committee approval?
If you were doing that, I would recommend just passing over,
Okay.
because it's likely that that would not end up in the final warrant article.
'Cause if they
And I
don't,
don't want to see people feeling that they made a motion that did not carry forward.
but if the school doesn't approve it, then it won't happen, right?
I would think so.
Well, they still bring it in front of town meeting. It is still
I
a
see.
viable article by a private party, so it would be voted on at town meeting.
I think it's valid. I just think the fact that there's zero financial ask here, we're the finance committee. If the school board decides yes or no, so I have no issue with it personally.
You probably watched the school committee, and
Yep.
I did as well. I happened to try. My perception was that, I'm not sure if they took a vote, but they seemed to be in favor of it.
Yes, that was my understanding, as well as what Mr. Eaton had said at the meeting was accurate, that they were going to follow up with the principal, because
It's his building.
it's his building, yeah, and he's in charge of, what's on the grounds there, but they seem to be in favor of this.
So if we approve it, it does not mean that the school has to do it. It just means if they wish to do it, the town would have approved it at town meeting, and they're good to go. That's my understanding of it. Go ahead, Joe.
I know in general, we've had discussions in the past whenever, we want a monument or a memorial for a person, and they're all, perfect candidates for them, but to be frank, then you're opening it up to anybody, and that conversation could be very broad in nature. When I looked at Article 32 and 33 together, I honestly thought we were going to come in and pass over on both of these, just given the impact from the school committee, their vote. I know they maybe voted, maybe didn't, but I know there was a lot of discussion around what the school committee's thoughts were on these here. So I can approve, I can disapprove, I can pass over. I did not know these folks personally at any point, but I'm sure they're well deserving. It just, from a finance committee standpoint, whenever we have these memorials and dedications, these are deserving people, but there's a lot of deserving people of a lot of monuments, and I just don't know if we should really be taking a position on any of them.
Well, that's not, that is an interesting and I think legitimate comment. We have struggled with this in the past, and exactly the way you presented it. Deserving people that other people want to make sure they're memorialized in the town, The school department, the school committee did mention, one of the members mentioned, we really need to have a policy, but more importantly, we need to have a group that will meet once a year and entertain any of these types of articles. I think that they should move with that idea for items that will be going on this school, because we're going to have another brand-new school. Somebody's going to want to put a memorial on there to somebody. It won't be us, but it will be somebody. And I think that the town as well should follow that and have a committee that meets once a year to entertain these types of things. And maybe the finance committee should adopt a passing on all kinds of memorials. It's awkward to vote against it. I do know these people, not well, but the names are very, very familiar to me. It's awkward to vote against something because it feels like you're voting against the person, and what you're really voting against is the process. So, you know, we have that option to pass over, and if questioned at town meeting, we'll just say, we're just passing it over to express our concern about the process.
Just to finalize my thoughts on that, I think that I don't know, try to put myself in somebody's shoes who's sitting at town meeting wondering which way to vote on this, and you know, holding up their hand or using one of the new clickers. I don't think that the finance committee's recommendation to pass over, to pass or reject this article would influence that. At least if it were me sitting in the audience. It costs nothing. It's on the docket because we have to review the articles, and that's basically it, right? If the memorial were going to cost, you know, $985.37, then we would have something to talk about.
And also, how you vote in here, we're voting as a committee, and whatever vote prevails is what will be carried to town meeting. But when you're in town meeting, you're a private citizen, and your vote is your own. So you can vote however you feel, and it can be in contrast to the way you vote here. I've done it before where I felt for the town it was the best thing, but I personally didn't like it. Doesn't happen very often, but I think everybody should feel comfortable doing that as well. So what was your motion, to approve, Andy?
Yes, it was.
It was to approve? Okay, so we have a motion to approve.
Brad,
and it's-
just-
Go ahead, sorry.
So I'd like to add my voice to the ones that say I think we should pass over both of these articles. First of all, I think the town needs to kind of clarify what requires town meeting approval and what doesn't. So, for example, we're not naming a part, we're not this is not becoming it's already Scanlon Field. That was named after Dick, Steve's father. The baseball field is named after, and that's what the plaque is. This is putting a plaque. That's all this is asking to do. It's not naming something. It's not naming an entity. It's not naming a field. It's not naming a hallway. It's putting a plaque up.
It's a monument.
Which, well, I don't know, it's a plaque, a monument, I'm not exactly sure. So I'm not sure whether these things actually require town meeting vote. To me, this is up to the school committee.
Well,
And I think for us to weigh in before they have officially weighed in is disrespectful to a fellow board in this community that has authority over those buildings by law. So I just think the vote is premature unless and until we know what the school committee has officially voted. And B, I think a plaque is, I'm not sure whether it's actually properly or necessarily has to go before town meeting. So, for that reason, I think there's a lot of questions here. I knew Steve well, I knew Dick well, and of course, Jack Cushing is an institution in this community. It's not about the people, it's about process. My major concern, again, is we should respect the school committee, let them deliberate, make a call, and then we can, if necessary, we could, when we meet on Saturday morning before town meeting, we could alter this if we wanted to, or we could just let it stand as no recommendation.
Well, I just would point out that that's town property, even though it's in the care and custody of the schools. It is town property. So I think that is the reason why you cannot just go down and attach things to town property, and it has to go through the annual town meeting process. So it seems like we've gone in a couple of different directions. Your motion,
Was not mine.
your motion,
Andy's, my motion.
Andy.
I'm gonna withdraw that motion. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm gonna motion that we pass.
You want to make a motion we pass over?
We pass over, yeah?
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, to pass over. Okay, so we have a motion that has been seconded to pass over Article 32. All those in favor of the motion to pass over? Oh, it's a good choice, Andy. It's unanimous.
Article 33, to see if the town will vote to name the Wilmington High School Athletic Hall of Fame display located at Wilmington High School in honor of Jack Cushing. The honor to include a plaque and/or signage to be placed in a prominent location in the hallway of the Hall of Fame display, commemorating this dedication and Jack Cushing's timeless support for the student athletes of Wilmington High School. All costs will be covered by donation so that no taxpayer dollars will be used for this dedication. I move to pass over Article 33.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to pass over Article 33. Is there any discussion?
Just not to just belabor this point, but the schools, the school department, or the schools created this athletic hall of fame without a town meeting vote. So why do we need a plaque? Why do we need to vote on putting a plaque on it?
That's what,
Well, we're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
The pass, right? Like, isn't
Yeah.
this great?
Any other comments on the motion to pass over?
I'm going to abstain because Jack is a family friend, so I don't feel comfortable voting at all on this article, so I'm abstaining.
Okay. All those in favor to pass over Article 33? Okay, that's 7 in favor, the motion carries, and 1 abstaining.
Article 34 is a long one. I don't think I need to read the whole thing. To see if the town will vote to enact the following non-binding resolution. It is related to the controlling of invasive species growing on private property. It may impact town property and conservancies, other private properties. The killing of trees and life cycle wildlife, and effectively, there's a typo in here about the town of Brookline, which obviously was a mistake. I think it was probably a borrowed article from a separate town. So, to me, the way I interpreted this, what Jamie stood up to the microphone, he said that the town of Wilmington already handles this to some degree, and this may or may not just be putting a letter to the state law in the town bylaws. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure I'm qualified to give an opinion on passing or disapproving this.
Don't we, shouldn't we be given suggesting whether it passes or not before we discuss?
Yes.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why
Wanna make a motion?
that's why I'm saying I'm not comfortable giving.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we do not pass this article.
Second.
I'll second it, yeah. So we got,
Okay.
you are making
A motion to not pass it.
motion, and who seconded it? Andy.
Quick comment on this. I asked the petitioner, since this was a cut and paste from state laws and it's already in place, why do we need it? It seems redundant and not necessary. And he said that I don't have a good answer. So since the petitioner doesn't have a good reason to put it forward, I don't know why we would even bother going forward with it. It's already state law. Jamie talked about how the town already adheres to these things. It seems redundant and unnecessary.
Yeah, I totally agree. It felt like the petitioner wasn't aware that we were already actively
Doing it.
behaving in this manner per state laws, right? Which we are.
I think the three of these are sort of clubbed together, and that the individual, Sean Bradford, bringing the motions forward was in spirit trying to prep the town for some kind of a community garden. And so these invasive species could potentially, he was trying to be foresightful and saying, what happens if this invasive species from somebody next door invades the community garden? I'm making an assumption that that's
Yeah,
the
that's an
relevance
assumption.
here.
Focused on this one article.
Yeah, let's,
We'll get to 35 in a minute. Let's finish 34.
So I think they're all clubbed together, and I don't feel equipped to vote on this properly. So I'm actually going to abstain from this one. But I don't disagree with the motion to disapprove. I'm personally going to abstain.
Okay, any other comments? All right, so if I'm reading this correctly, we still have a motion to disapprove.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Now it needs to be voted.
all right, so all those in favor of disapproving Article 34? Okay, and Anthony?
Just abstaining.
Okay, thank you.
Article 35 is for the town to raise $50,000 for a feasibility study of a community garden. I make a motion that we disapprove this article.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to disapprove Article 35. Is there any discussion?
To recap the conversation that we had that night, $50,000 is an excessive amount of money. Jamie talked about how we already have a space and tried this. It takes a huge effort and a huge amount of people to run a community garden. I'm completely in favor of it. Let's use the area in front of the dog park that is available, free, has very little cost to the town. And if that is successful, then let's look at a larger area. But to just decide to spend $50,000 on something when we don't know how many people are even interested in working on it seems like a misappropriation of the town's funds.
Mary Ann, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to back exactly what Chris said. Also, just to note that the town manager is not in favor of this. It's going to use town resources, and he just didn't feel it was appropriate at this time with what Chris said, to do a smaller garden to see, who wants it and who would work on it. I also feel that the petitioner really didn't have any solid plan and just kind of threw it out to the town was going to do everything. Maintain it, build it, do the infrastructure. It was just not, in my opinion, thought through by the petitioner.
I think I can give an opinion on this article because there's a number here that is a made-up number. The 50,000 was immediately said that he didn't think it would cost that much. So why is it being presented as 50,000? There's also an implicit cost, to Marianne's point. The implicit cost was that who's going to run this thing? Well, that now we're talking about a committee and/or a group of employees, and the DPW already said we're not going to do it. So it's not just the feasibility study. It's what is the cost annually going forward for the community garden, and what do dues look like, who participates. If you're a town taxpayer, you also have to pay dues.
I didn't understand that either. It was,
Yeah.
he was collecting dues, but it was gonna be paid for by the town, so where are those dues going to?
In principle, I think it's a good idea, but I don't, 50,000 is a lot to. Okay.
All right, so we've had discussion. We do have a motion to disapprove Article 35. All those in favor of disapproving Article 35? It's unanimous.
Article 36, to see if the town will vote to enact the following bylaw as a bylaw of the town of Wilmington or take any other action related thereto. Right to farm bylaw. The purpose and intent of this bylaw is to state with emphasis the right to farm according to all citizens of the Commonwealth under Article 97 of the Constitution, etc. It goes on to define certain words in the proposed bylaw, a right to farm declaration, and Section 4 is a resolution of disputes, and a severability clause, which I'm not sure I've ever even seen in a bylaw, but, and it is a petition warrant article. I move that the Finance Committee recommend disapproval of Article 36. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend disapproval. Discussion?
Can I want to just say that I really appreciate the petitioner trying to make our community better and trying to address issues that he feels are important. And I think it's important for citizen participation in its local government to be supported, encouraged, and treated with respect, which I think we did. And I want to make sure that any of the votes of this committee are not interpreted contrary to that. I think working with town government can be challenging and confusing to people who are new to it, and the processes are not always clear, and I encourage. I just don't want people I just don't want the petitioner to feel we don't appreciate his work and and the work he's trying to do to make the community better in his view, but nonetheless, I will vote to disapprove this article, as I think it's somewhat superfluous. I think it also has some potential for unintended or unknown consequences that I don't think we or members or the professional staff of the town hall have had a chance to consider or weigh in on. So for that reason, I would recommend disapproval.
Well said, Brad.
Any other discussion?
We need people to come back.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded recommending disapproval of Article 36. If you want to disapprove Article 36, please raise your hand. It's unanimous.
Article 37, to see if the town will vote Wilmington Community Television one-time appropriation, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $65,000 from free cash for a one-time, one-year allocation to Wilmington Community Television for operational and programming support, or take any other action related thereto. I'm going to make a motion that we recommend approval of this article.
Second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend approval, and it's been seconded. Is there discussion?
Teresa, I have a point. I honestly struggled with this one because it's not going to be a one-time request. There's, just based on the information I gathered, there's an issue based on a 42-year-old statute on the whole funding model for community access television. And it's not within the realm of possibility that cable just doesn't exist a few years from now. We're heading that way. It went from 90+% utility down to 30%, and that's their whole funding model. So this is something that's going to continue to go down. What I do have hope for is, one, they're trying to mitigate cost and risk and looking at different, facilities, so on and so forth. That'll only help them so much. I think their saving grace here is if they pass legislation on a different funding model, that streaming bill. And to me, the $65,000 at least afforded them the opportunity to have some breathing room, but only if they can push that legislation, because in my opinion, without that legislation, this is just gonna go away. Now, I fully appreciate the fact that this is coming out of free cash, and that's town money to support a private entity. And I fully respect all of that, and I know that that's a slippery slope as well. But my perspective is to give these guys some breathing room so that, because bills don't get through the legislature quickly. And it's not without the realm of possibility that they could be back next year as well, because this problem's not gonna go away.
I share the same exact concerns. I was unsure if I was going to be in favor of this, because the director was giving specific examples of ways he was mitigating costs and how this money would be spent, is why I am, recommending approval for it. If this was more than a one-year cost, so if they said we're going to keep coming back, which if you look at the financials, it does give me concern that that's going to happen, I would not be in favor of this.
Any other comments? All right, my comment is that I fully acknowledge how important Wilmington Community Television is to our existence in Wilmington. It's not just finance committee meetings and select board meetings. There's people out there that, grandparents that can watch their grandchildren's basketball game. There's all kinds of things that are presented on this, through this operation. So I fully acknowledge the difficulties they've had in trying to keep themselves afloat. I have a couple of concerns. One, this is being petitioned by a private citizen, somebody that's on their board. I feel it should have come through the town. Because if it came through the town, then we would feel that it has been vetted, the financials have been looked at, there's been discussion about what about next year, that type of thing. And I don't want to see it be a yearly issue. There are a lot of options for them to get out of their very expensive home right now, but there are also some options that were not mentioned that would create a significant relief from the financial pressures. So that's something that I'd be waiting to hear, why are those options not being considered. I don't think going from paying $80,000 a year to $60,000 is going to make any big difference here. So those are my concerns, and I will vote to approve it, but I hope next year that this is a completely different article. So any other discussion?
Can I ask a clarifying question? You mentioned that it's private. Is it a misnomer? My assumption, based on the name, that Wilmington Community Television. This is not town run.
No.
Okay, thank you.
So when cable started out, because I started out in cable, I know, that long ago,
Almost in
this
very
came
spot.
up as something that was a part of their agreements with the towns, that they would provide access to the community, either teach them how to do things or film their sports activities type of thing. And then it grew into its own kind of entity that became almost like a part of your culture. You can just turn on the TV and you can see a select board meeting or a finance committee meeting from last week. Or you can watch it in real time.
Or on YouTube,
Or you can go on YouTube.
which is why they should be paying some.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, Marion?
So, yes, I struggled with this because it is a private entity and don't want to start setting a precedent of giving private entities money. I do think they do a service to the town, as Teresa said, all the programming. And also, they do have benefits for the kids in the high school. They run programs for them to come over and learn broadcasting, and so they do go above and beyond to try to really help the community. But as everybody said, I don't want to see this every year. They need to figure out a way, whether they work out an agreement with the town for some rent-free space in one of the buildings that we have room in at this point. I encourage them to do that. And as Teresa said, going from $80,000 a year lease to a $60,000 a year lease is not going to cure this problem. It does give them even more breathing room if they can work out a deal with the town to have some rent-free space that would really benefit them. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add my 2 cents to this. Local government means something to everybody. It impacts us more than state government, more than federal government, because you've got to get your streets plowed, you've got to have your schools, you've got to have your cemeteries, you've got to have all of those services that are provided locally. And access to your local elected officials and what is going on in your community, particularly in the age when, with all due respect to the Wilmington Apple and the Town Crier, when access through the press is becoming less and less available, having access to your government is essential to a working democracy, and WCTV provides that. And yes, there probably are not a lot of people sitting at home over a cup of coffee right now watching us deliberate. But there will be some people, particularly those who are interested, who will look this tape up and will watch it to see what's going on. And I think having that access is essential to the workings of our community. I do also want to address, because I've been struggling with the precedent as well. There was a time, and I don't think we do it anymore, but there was a time when there was a budget allocation to Wilmington Family Counseling.
Yep, I remember that.
Oh, you remember? It's long since gone. Wilmington Family Counseling still exists, but it does not get any allocation of funds from the town of Wilmington. But in exchange for some funding from the town in the budget every year, they provided low-cost or no-cost access to mental health services to people with certain income levels who were members of the community, as well as some other, this is a 25-year-old memory, so I'm not getting it all correct. So there is a precedent here. In exchange for something for our community, which in that case was free access to mental health services for people who met affordability levels, Wilmington subsidized that with a budget allocation. So I do, and I didn't remember this until actually today as we were talking, but I think there is a precedent, and I think this is a similar situation where the Wilmington government, the Wilmington community receives a benefit of extraordinary level, and I feel very comfortable making this one-time allocation. I also agree with the statements that, it's not something that the WCTV Board of Directors should be planning on in future years, because the patients will wear thin as time goes on. And they're going to have to find another solution while we help bridge the gap. Or this proposal helps to bridge the gap.
I completely agree with every comment, except I'm just thinking, I don't see the difference between giving them this $65,000 and giving them free rent in a town building. At the end of the day, the town is going to forego rent from someone else to give them the space, so it's still an allocation of the town's money and assets. So as much as I'm in favor of supporting this article, I think we got a broader thing to discuss, because if we give them free space, isn't that the same as granting them in the future? Isn't that the same as giving them a $65,000 thing to cover their budget?
Madam Chair, they used to have free space from the town
At the Swain
for
School.
many, many years
Yeah.
at the Swain School.
The
And then
swimming pool.
when that building was removed,
Yeah,
they had to find other space. And then that kind of was a perfect storm, because that's when streaming kind of started pulling all their revenue. So they were homeless and they had decreased revenue, and it's been an issue since then. I would love to see them move into
Yeah,
the old town hall, or,
Absolutely.
now
old
we don't
town
know
hall's
what's
perfect,
going
right?
on at the old senior center, but, yeah, I would love that, because they would have a home, they wouldn't have to worry about the majority of their expenses is eliminated. We continue to get great service.
And the reason why that they didn't go anywhere else, the town just didn't have the room to put them anywhere
Yeah, now we
else.
got room.
It wasn't, they went their separate way because the town
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want to do anything. It's just they didn't have any
Valuable
room.
tool for the community. I'm an advocate. I'm not a very big consumer of it, but I understand the need and purpose, and I want it to exist. I'm just making a comment that
Yep.
we all kind of are saying the same thing. We'll do this one time,
Yeah.
but if we give them free rent next year, it's really not just one time, because it's forever then after that. And I'm not suggesting that's right or wrong. I'm just making a comment.
I believe one of the reasons why they got the free rent from the town building is there was an agreement that they would cover certain town meetings.
Right.
So there was like you got to give us something.
Okay.
We're not just going to give this to you.
Good point, Scott.
But then they went and they are
Continue to do it anyway.
doing not only the minimum that was asked of them.
But more.
There was a time when the finance committee was never televised.
Right, never.
And this has only been, I don't even know how many years.
It's been at least the 3 years I've been on it.
Right, so.
You show up. We just want to see you on TV.
I got a face made for radio. Nobody wants to see it.
All right, so is there any other discussion?
No.
So we have a motion on the table to recommend approval, I believe. And we've had discussion. All those in favor of approving Article 37? Okay, so we have 4, 5, 6, 7. Andy has left the building. I am going to say he is One absent. Okay, Joe, you're gonna bring us home here.
Oh, I got this one, okay. Article 38 to, oh, Mary Ann, were you next, or?
Andy was the last one.
Oh, you were next. I read the last one.
Yeah, it's you,
I was going to let it
I
go.
would have been happy to do it.
Andy didn't read that?
No, I did.
No.
I apologize.
It's not easy running these meetings, is it?
You're running a lot of.
Well, I'm trying to keep track of all the votes
and everything. Yeah,
on
no,
top
it's a
of
lot.
keeping track of the meeting.
We're
I'm
not-
not joking, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's
Nobody wants that chair,
I have
Teresa.
not
You're doing great.
lived up to your expectations.
I think we're all thrilled that you're there.
All of you, maybe. Okay, Article 38, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $7,500 from free cash to fund the operational budget of the Wilmington Farmers Market. I will not read the rest of the article. I think we've all familiar with it. But as presented, the article is looking for money to help support administrative support, entertainment, community program, outreach, among many other items. I am going to make a motion to recommend disapproval of this article.
I second it.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. The motion is to disapprove. Is there any discussion?
I have a comment because I have a feeling that I know how this vote is going to go. I think that this Wilmington Farmers Market, to me, falls in the same bucket as the WCTV article in the sense that I think the conception here, I'm not going to call it a misconception because I don't know the financials, but I think the conception here is that this would be somehow subsidizing a profit for a private entity. And I hope that at town meeting in the presentation, the individual who's petitioning this will give us some clarity on that, because I did a little bit of research last night. I see a GoFundMe from October out there. They need money. They're struggling. We personally, as a family, attend every Sunday that we can. And I do view that as a service to the town, so I don't necessarily see it as us fattening their pockets. You have revenue minus expenses equals net income. They're asking for help with their expenses. I don't see this as a big ask. I have a problem to keep with my standard. I have a problem with $7,500 flat. To me, that's a made-up number. I would love to see if they get that money, what are the list of services that the town people will receive on Sundays as a result of that money. Is this an A or B, as in A, as we get this money, or B, there will no longer be a farmer's market? I don't think that increasing the cost to the vendors, someone who makes handmade bracelets is not going to be able to pay double all of a sudden to show up and sell bracelets. So I think it's a service to the town people, and I think the town people need to decide whether or not this small amount of money is well spent on what services the farmers market would provide, and if the presenter can tell us at that time whether or not it's a question of, are we funding a profit or are we funding the existence of a farmer's market on town property? So that's how I feel about it, because I get, and my understanding is that the person who presented, it was at the end of a long night, just like this was the end of a long day. It's the very last article after a lot of discussion, and it was a person presenting on behalf of someone who actually was away. It was not Christine who was presenting to us. So all of those things, I would like to see more information and more transparency about what exactly we're going to get with this money.
So they presented this to the select board back a couple months ago. I watched the presentation. The big ask is because they're losing a grant from, I believe, like Leahy Hospital. Yeah, it was some hospital for a nutrition program, I believe, no, SNAP. The thing that bothers me about this, if you can't run your financials and you're looking at grant money, and you're expanding, because the presentation said they were expanding, that they had grown their business. Well, then you're growing too fast if you need a subsidy from a town for that business. Also, they have a full-time marketing person, which is probably the reason why they've expanded. If you are having difficulties, maybe you should have a part-time marketing person. I mean, I'm not sure what the offset is. They're getting revenue in from the tables, and if it's just not working and you're overspending, I mean, it comes to a point that they need to look at their financials, maybe cut out the marketing person, because I know during the presentation, they just hired that marketing person, and that's a big part of their budget.
And they also get the advantage that WCTV doesn't, in that they're using town property free of charge.
Exactly.
And when they use the senior center, paying for a janitor, in my mind, is
Right.
not paying rent. That's still free usage. You're just returning it back to the state that it was in before.
So I'm going to go
They already
back.
have an advantage WCTV doesn't.
So I'm going to go back to the president. Everybody, maybe they need to go to other fundraising, to the WOW, to the community center, community fund, I think, and ask for money from there if it's a small ask of $7,500. To ask a municipality to fund them, where's the stop? Are we going to, the Little League, the soccer program, they're having problems paying their bills. Are they going to start asking the town to subsidize their programs? So, I mean, we need to do a cutoff here at some point. Or
I think that's
everybody's
true.
going to be coming to the town that's a nonprofit that's struggling.
I think that's true. I think that's why I view it as a service. And like I said, my family personally, we benefit from that service. Yes, we show up there and we spend money at the vendors, and so they may make a small profit. I don't know. And that's why I think we need transparency as to exactly what we would be losing if we don't spend this money, as opposed to, are we losing out on the kids' events that are happening there that does not cost a dime to the taxpayers? Are we, does it impact me if a certain vendor's not there tomorrow? No, it doesn't. But so that's the way I view it. I think it's a good thing for the community. I think we need more transparency as to exactly what that is. And your point is well received. They're expanding, they're adding employees. Is that the right move? I don't know the answer to that. I don't run their business. I guess my question would be, is the farmer's market gone tomorrow? It pops up on a green space that is then gone after a couple hours. So it's not like Wilmington Community TV parking in a building for free. I don't see it as that, because then that same green space is used for other things. If there were a competing entity that wanted that space on Sundays from 10 to 2, then there's an economic cost. But right now, I don't see that. So that's my 2 cents on that.
As a Wilmington resident, I think they provide a great service. I want them to continue and to expand. So as a Wilmington resident, I'm in favor of helping support them. But as a member of the Finance Committee, I mean, the word you've used multiple times is transparency, and the transparency is not there for the town of Wilmington to give them money. And that's my opinion. As a Finance Committee member, I can't vote for it for that reason.
Right.
I also want to add that this, while the transparency is not there, it does say to fund the operational budget, whereas the previous article that we talked about was one-time money for one-time capital purchases. So this is, to me, this is an appropriation in perpetuity. And we already, I think what got the previous article over the finish line was the fact that it was a one-time purchase to buy time, one-time expenditure to allow an essential, respectfully, I love the Wilmington Farmers Market. I don't consider it essential. I do consider WCTV to be essential. Having said that, and I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback about that, but so be it. I just don't see, I do see these two articles as apples and oranges. I think this creates a very dangerous precedent that I just cannot, I just don't feel comfortable with. And the dollar amount is at some point irrelevant to the precedent.
I mean, I think you're spot on. I heard it overtly said that they would plan on every year coming with the same ask. So essentially, you're funding a portion of their operation year over year, an operation where you have no visibility to their P&L. You don't know why they're upside down. You don't know what the rent is or what rental increase is. You have no idea what the impact is in a drop in vendors due to a rental increase. Nothing. So with zero information, we can't ethically and possibly vote to approve. So that's just where my head is at with this article.
Okay. Anybody else? So the reason I suggested or recommended disapproval is if I heard properly, they just had a 30% increase in the number of vendors. I think that the meeting a few months ago in front of the select board was because they were matching funds on SNAP benefits, and they lost that grant. So obviously, if you have SNAP benefits and you have $10, it now turns into $20, and that's a benefit for those folks. Those folks aren't all from Wilmington. We have no idea, nor should we know where they're from. But instead of pulling back and trying to save that benefit, they've expanded. And I just question the management of the entity that is running this. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just question if they're getting the proper guidance on how to handle times when you don't have as much revenue as you would like. It shouldn't be as easy as we'll just go to the town. And as Mary Ann mentioned earlier, there's quite a few groups in town that like very much to help small organizations that are struggling. The Wilmington Community Fund, WOW, Rotary perhaps, maybe even, other charitable groups. So for that reason alone, and also, we have no financial statements. We have nothing. We have no relationship with this group. We have a relationship with WCTV. I feel very uncomfortable. There's another group we donate to every year. I'm uncomfortable because we don't see their financial statements. And I'm questioning that public safety is a cost to them, because I'm not thinking that they get charged to have police or fire drive by when they're in Wilmington. I'm not sure what that's for. Anyway, that's my argument for recommending disapproval. So we have a motion It's been seconded. The motion is to recommend disapproval of Article 38. All those in favor? Okay, so we've got 6 in favor. And are you abstaining, or?
No, I'm voting as opposed to.
As opposed to the, okay. Okay, and 1 absent. Okay, well, that completes our review of the warrant. We do have minutes from January 31st.
Motion to approve the minutes from January 31st?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
January 29th?
All those in favor? Unanimous. Oh, Chris, you weren't here. And you weren't either, Brad.
Oh, I get the wrong minutes, I'm sorry. I'll abstain.
I guess I'll abstain then. I read them. They seemed accurate.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I also wanted, before you leave, Chris, I want to amend the roll call to add Scott from Thursday night's meeting. He arrived late, but he did participate, and he also voted for the minutes. So I want to make sure that he is in there. So if I could have a motion, please, to add him as a late arrival.
So moved.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. That's it, folks. This is a very quick budget year. What did everybody think of the new schedule?
It worked for me.
And
I
you were
liked
the
it.
one that we were worried about.
I had to shuffle some things around, but I was able to.
Okay, great.
I have no issue with doing it this way going forward, if this is what the committee would like to do.
Yeah.
My brain is a lot fresher on a Saturday morning than at
Yeah.
6:37 on a weeknight. So I felt my engagement was better, just based on the schedule.
Yeah, it's hard at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then you get home and you get settled in, and then, oh, I got to be there at 7 o'clock.
My only recommendation is be that we start at 8:15 or 8:30 instead of 9 o'clock so that we can finish earlier. Most
Okay.
of us are at work before then anyway, so I don't think it's a hardship to start earlier so that we have more of the afternoon open. It starts to run late when it gets to be noon and we're still here.
Remind me, this meeting last year, was this open to public comment?
Never,
No.
no.
I didn't think.
And the
I-
reason that we don't do that is if somebody came on Thursday and didn't speak, Thursday is when we're listening to what people have to say about things. And
Right.
that would carry over into our voting. If somebody came and stood here and made a comment about an article, nobody else is there to contradict that.
I 100% agree with it. It seemed like this was quicker. This voting on the articles was quicker, or maybe it just
Smaller warrant.
felt that, yeah. Either way, I think that this worked.
Bless
We-
you.
Last year, we were going into March Madness, which is typically the St. Patrick's Day week, right? So we're early because of the new schedule. I think it's good.
Great. Everybody's good with it. That's great. I love it.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Thank you all very much.